Right from the start of the project, there was a range of people in the community and differing views about the project, from people that supported the project, keen on the jobs, keen on the business, and other people who were not supportive of the project at all, because it was such, Margaret River is such a sensitive environment.
There was definitely differing opinions, but on a whole, I don't think, within the region it was looked on very favourably that BHP had turned up in their backyard.
And the inconvenience of having a big mine by you, and it's just, it affects you every time you go to town. You had to slow down because the traffic was bad and all those sort of things, but they're just nitpicking. But I'm trying to sort of explain what happened to my ambience when they arrived. It was just shattered. It never came back. Even when they left, it was too late. They'd created such a monster.
After the first day, I had the BHP logo on, and I think we went into the bar, and the guy behind the bar said, "I wouldn't wear that in here if I was you." And he said, I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, it started a fight here last week."
It was very damaging for our reputation in Western Australia, and it was very embarrassing. That is the word, there's no doubt about it.
There was nobody that was happy about the closure, because the people that didn't want the mine in the first place had to put up with these 2 years of operation and felt vindicated that it should never have happened at all. People are going to lose their jobs, businesses were going to lose their business, and I think that overwhelmingly all of those people, with different reasons for why they might have been upset at the closure, would have had concerns about the company's ability to manage the rehabilitation.
I think there would have been a lot of doubts because we'd failed in our mining. So what was the guarantee that we were going to be able to rehabilitate the thing?
I can't recall what I thought. I'm an optimistic person. I'm sure I thought it was possible, but it was a bit, it was definitely going to be a complicated process. It was not one that you could just approach as a standard rehabilitation project, that's for sure.
So I've been a shareholder since the late 80s and watched the disaster unfold when they found that it wasn't going to work. I thought, gee, they're just going to try and get out of this as quickly and as cleanly as they can. Not in my backyard, they're not.
I think in the early days, suspicion was the key word.
The general consensus was that this mine had difficulties, that it shouldn't have really got off the ground, that more research should have been done.
And the main concern was any pollution going into the Scott River and subsequently the Blackwood River.
Especially in view of the Octetti disaster with BHP, that was certainly the major concern amongst the residents.
In initial stages, BHP were forthcoming with a lot of information, but we felt they were holding some back. We were told what the decisions were going to be, and we could comment on them, but the decisions were made by BHP and they moved forward. And we felt we couldn't trust them at that stage.
It's virtually impossible to be consultative when you're struggling, you're in project survival mode and potentially facing closure. There was definitely a period there where we were informative at best.
We had to work with that because that's your starting point, and try and, I guess, just work with the different members of the group. And we said, we've just done all the analysis of the site. You can have it.
The consultative group were given everything. There was no reason anymore. There was no commercial reason to hold anything back. And there was every reason to be completely open with them to make sure that nothing would come out at a later stage that would cause distrust again. So transparency, in my view, was a very important part of this project.
When BHP first started to release some of the information just before the mine closed, and our concerns were verified, the pH was extremely low. They had an acid sulphate plume moving towards the Scott River and to a lesser extent the Blackwood. The problem was, how were they going to remediate that?
What we did was we calculated the amount of sulphur that was there that could turn into acid, and we applied 3 times the amount of calcium carbonate, which is lime sand, to neutralise all of that. So there was enough to neutralise it 3 times, which means that site now is stable forever. It can't geochemically change.
We asked for a peer review. The community consultative group asked for a peer review, so we got outside expert to analyse what BHP had done and the results. And we were heartened by the results. The peer review said yes, they seem to be going on the right track. They did raise some concerns, which to BHP credit, they took on board and they worked with them. And today we're seeing the results of that.
Yeah, I think that was one of our steps towards achieving the transparency that we're after. That was the idea of it, to have them advertise and select a suitable person to do the peer review. It also gave us confirmation that we were on the right track.
We were not completely happy with what they had in place to rehabilitate the mine. We wanted to see something really good. Gavin Price, who was working with Bill, spoke to us at length and said, look, what do you really want? And we came up with these ideas. BHP came up with some really good ideas, and together we finished up with a plan which has turned out really well.
Trust developed over time when we realised that we were being listened to by BHP. You can't have transparency without trust, and you can't have trust without transparency. And we had the two together, and I think it evolved over time, of course. It wasn't sudden.
The vision that they had to put into place was amazing, but there was a lot of ground to cover, and the diversity that they were hoping to get as part of the rehabilitation was huge.
I was astounded after the first couple of years, the amount of commitment that they had, and it's continued on in my case for 18 odd years.
I never expected to see what we have achieved there today.
It is a pleasure to see the bird life and see those lakes over there, and getting the feedback on the flora and fauna that's developed over there. I mean, it is just a remarkable outcome.
Considering when I came into it that I was going to hold them to account and didn't need to, I'm extremely proud to have been involved in it, very much so.
The process has worked really well, and the finished product there is remarkable. It's been 20 years in the making. This plan has worked. The plan has shown that community input can be successful.
Yeah, I'm very proud of being involved in this process. A consultative group in the mining industry that actually shows how it can be done.